Welcome everybody to the Futures Freedom Plan, Precision Strategies any trader can follow. We'll be taking Q&A at the end. So as Darrell mentioned, if you do have a question, we've got a really thorough presentation here. We're going to be covering a number of tools, a number of trades. I call them explainer charts. We'll have a lot of great charts to show you trades from this week. I mean, these are really recent trades. Any trader, Andrew, any trader. So glad you're here. Buckle your seatbelts, and we're going to get right into it. So Danielle, take it away.
All right. Well, like I just said, thank you everybody so much for being here with us tonight. First of all, I mean, we're calling it the Futures Freedom Plan because really that's the entire point of why I got into this to begin with, and some of you may feel the same. It's just, you know, when you're in a job, you have X amount that you can earn, right? And the markets, they can, if you learn it the right way, they can give you more. So I really got into trading from the beginning so that I was able to expand my income in another way, in a way that gave me freedom so that I was not, stuck in the 9-to-5 grind. So for you, it might be something different. Maybe you want to retire. Maybe you want to quit your job. Maybe you just want a little bit of extra money for your kids' college or new house, something like that. Or maybe, like somebody just said they're trading from Caymans. So stuff like that. All of these are reasons why we have gotten into trading. So how about why trade futures? Yeah, slide 2. So we're doing this back and forth here. So So just bear with us for a minute. So why trade futures? How many of you guys already trade futures? Just give me a yes or no answer. Awesome. So we definitely have a mix of yes and no. So I'm going to try to talk to, both groups of people. So just bear with me here. But, here are the 5 main reasons why I like to trade futures. So number 1, it's either buy or sell. There's not going to be any complex strategies. Seriously, that's it. Buy or sell. Number 2 is the liquidity. So very, very high liquidity, really fast entries and exits. The third reason is going to be the 24-hour trading hours. Now, I'm not going to advocate that we're, up at 3 o'clock in the morning like a crazy trade monster, but there are awesome times that you can trade. And we'll show you a couple examples later on in the presentation that you can do when the options or stock markets are closed. The fourth reason is going to be no time decay. So obviously with options, we know that this is a decaying asset, and that's just simply not an issue with futures. And number 5 is really key here. So these are highly leveraged products. If you're going to compare stock to options to futures, it's like comparing trading stock to, let's say, a school bus, and then yeah, very slow, steady, you'll get there, you'll probably be safe, probably, but once you upgrade and go to options, these are pretty leveraged. So that's like the equivalent of, you got a really nice car like a Mustang, you can drive fast, you can drive slow if you want. It could be dangerous if you do it in the wrong way, but then trading futures, I mean, this is just no, trading futures are going to where you have the Ferrari. So it's an awesome, awesome opportunity to have this and drive it. And it goes really fast, but you have to know how to do it in the right way. So it's not dangerous, but it's absolutely incredible once you get it down. So next slide, please, Miss Raghee. Yeah. So here's the secret. We want to always limit our risk, and Raghee and I are going to teach you ways that you can do that. So we want to focus on strategies that are limited risk, high reward, but the very key here is your timing. So when you can get those 3 things down, that is what we like to call your freedom, to where you are able to make money on the side trading this asset class that we know and love. So what if you have never traded futures before? So it really may seem intimidating, but in reality, once I got into it, and it was actually Neil, listening to Neil in the trading room, that got me into it. And I remember how intimidated I was with this. But once I realized it is so much simpler than everything else that I'm trading, I mean, and once I realized that all you have to do is learn specific patterns, control your risk, and use your knowledge and tools, I mean, from that point, I was hooked. So here's just a nice graph to describe the difference between options and futures. Really, like I'm saying, you know, and I know all of you guys aren't options traders, but with options, there are just so many different things that you have to take into account. You have to take into account which strategy you're going to use. Are you going to use calls, puts, butterflies? How long are you going to be in the trade? How much is it going to cost you to purchase the option? How much is it? How much? Yeah, no Greeks, right? How much credit are you going to get? You have to understand spreads. Like, all of this stuff is very complicated. And most of you guys who do know me as an options trader, and I am primarily an options trader, but I love trading futures because of the simplicity involved. You know, like I was saying before, go long, go short. There's no time decay. It's the same cost with margin. And you know, your margin is not going to change based on IV. It will sometimes, but very, very rarely. And really, overall, the main thing that you need to take away from this is what you need to do to trade both asset classes. So that's going to be that area in the middle. And if you can do these 6 things, then you will be able to trade both asset classes. So let's go to the next slide and we can see the focus of those 6 things. So these are the 6 things. So if you trade options, if you trade stocks, if you don't trade anything at all, these are the things that you really need to learn as far as charting and trading goes. You need to figure out pattern recognition. And so we are going to work on pattern recognition tonight. And in our class, that is also what we're really going to focus on as well. So you really just got to learn how to use a pattern. You can use it across any asset class or time frame. The second point is going to be the knowledge of the asset class. So you should not trade anything that you don't have knowledge of. However, that is what we're going to give you, the knowledge of this asset class and how to do it. Number 3, if you guys know me, you will know that risk is of utmost importance to me. Very, very important thing. And we're going to talk about that. And, you know, even though my futures trades go a lot quicker than my options trades go, I generally do risk a smaller dollar amount in my futures trades than I risk in my options trades, which is exactly why I love that leverage. So the 4th point is going to be support and resistance, and how key this is. Again, translates across any asset class. Entries and exits, all you got to do is know how to get them in the right spot. So that is where your edge comes in. And then market correlations. So that's also a very key part here. So going on to the next slide, why should you consider trading futures? So does anybody remember Tuesday, April 24th? That was 2 days ago. This day in particular, the Dow dropped 800 points. So how this has been happening more and more and more in the last 3 months, ever since we met that high in the S&Ps right at the beginning of the February correction. We have had these insane days in the stock market. And, you know, as far as an options trader or stock trader is concerned, knowing how to use futures to trade on these type of days is absolutely pivotal. So let's go ahead and go to the next slide. Yeah, so I mean, there's 2 different things you can do here. You can trade it with futures, or you can, you know, there's some of you who will say, oh, well, you know, I like trading other asset classes. And that's totally fine. But knowing how to use futures in moments like this is absolutely key. And for me, the more and more I use them, the more and more I love them, especially on days like that, because a day like that is cash money in the futures markets. You might be going into that day, you know, who knows what you had in your portfolio going into the day, but if you know how to recognize those patterns on a day like that, you're not gonna, you know, wanting to go to the bar at the end of the day. You're gonna be very, very happy. So it's all about just recognizing the patterns and knowing how to trade them on days like that. And any day really, but especially those days because they've been happening so frequently lately. So let's go ahead and get into the details, and Raghee is going to take us into the different contract specifications here in the futures market.
Hey, thanks, Danielle. All right, gang. So hopefully you're getting a really good idea of the fact that futures trading doesn't have to replace anything you're doing now. It's a great addition to. It's going to give you insight into the market, the ability to hedge. And when you talk about the main contract specifications here, most of what I have found throughout about 30 years of trading futures is stick with where most of the participation is. So while we have a lot of markets we can choose from, they're fantastic, viable markets. You know, ags, they're the grocery store to the world. Your corn, your wheat, your soybean, soy meal, etc. You know, this is the grocery store. But they're not necessarily the most liquid contracts, and they have certain quirks, meaning you've got to understand why the volatility and the volume might pick up or drop at any given time. So a lot of what we do is we focus on these markets that are correlated. We're focusing on these markets that have a certain connectivity. They don't disconnect you from the equities world. In fact, they give you tremendous insight. And I'm going to show you a lot about that in just a little bit. Why should you listen to us? So, you know, when you, and actually, I hate that picture. My gosh. Talk about one of the things that has been so great about trading and working with Danielle is I take for granted what I've been doing for the better part of 30 years. I started when I was 15. By the time I was in college, I was pretty much trading full time. And so much of what I do is almost this subconscious competence. You guys have heard of the 4 competencies. And one of the things that it's been so great for the past few years trading with Danielle is talking about where the connectivity is between taking someone who's really such a natural born teacher and now a really great trader, and then her taking my strategies and even for me, revealing a lot of things that I didn't do consciously. It's actually made me even better. So that's one of the reasons that I've just been so excited about teaming up with her for this. And, you know, not to mention, I just like her. So again, just a quick breakdown. I started, I like you, man. I like working with you.
It's fun. So, it's fun. We got a synergy.
It is. We've had so much fun doing this. So, you know, just cut to the chase. The big moment for me was about my sophomore year in college. It dawned on me that it was going to be a lot of work for me to finish college because at this point I was trading full time. It dawned on me that I was probably making more than most of my professors. And I had to really just let my mother down really gently and let her know that I wasn't going to law school. And mind you, back then I was charting my trades by hand on my dad's engineering graph paper. So have times changed. And I love Danielle's story. Hey girl, tell them all about yourself.
Oh, well, you know, I just got into this crazy trading thing because I wanted to be able to make money working from home. I didn't want to I couldn't be a stay-at-home mom because I, at the time, was a single mom. And, you know, my only option was really going to work a lot of hours to try to take care of this kid by myself. And it was my dad, actually, that got me into trading. So my dad got me into trading. And once I figured out that I was able to make enough money that I could work from home and be with my son, I mean, that was it. So I have taken my teaching background and combined that. I used to be a elementary school teacher, coach. I've done all kinds of things. And now I ended up somehow here teaching options and futures to you guys. So, you know, it's pretty awesome. I love what I do. And now I've gotten to team up with Raghee, which has been absolutely awesome. So you can see right there, my son, Leo, he's all about the trading. That's him. He picked up John's Mastering the Trade book, and he's talking about how he's going to teach his own webinars. So 5 years later, that's what we're doing. And that's Raghee and I teaching at our last live event together, which was awesome. So 5 years later, that's what we're doing now. And yeah, love it.
With these the drawing tools here. That the mentorship for me was probably one of the definitely turning the corner. The feedback that I had from a lot of folks was, Rag, I've followed your stuff for a long time, and when you and Danielle were up there trading together, the way that you were able to pick apart your trades, and like I said, thinking as a trader is really about being very conscious about the different steps that you take. So teaming up with Danielle was a no-brainer. I have to say it. I've told her privately, I'm going to say it publicly too. It's actually in just the last year for sure, and it's the last couple of weeks, it's taken what I do, and it's, I think, given me a clear methodology, which I'm getting feedback from folks saying, yeah, we can actually follow a lot of the process is so much better because we're having a clearer look at the exact steps, almost like recipes, the checklist to follow for different trades. And we're going to cover quite a few of those here. So I love that picture of us. That was on the way to Stingray City, right? I think that was on the way to Stingray City.
And I remember I was like, Raghee, take a picture with me. And you're like, oh man, we're on this boat. I got really sick on that boat, but it was an awesome, awesome time in Grand Cayman. So
oh, that's right. I forgot you got seasick. So that's right. Oh my gosh. See, that's the number two. Trading just makes you tougher. Man, you gutted through that. I do remember that. So one of the things that we have focused on a lot are patterns. What are the patterns that I discovered as a 15-year-old? What are the patterns that if you understood how to recognize them and the right environment, that you could just repeat, rinse and repeat over and over again? And we have a number of patterns that we're going to share with you here, but that's exactly what it is. How do you take a pattern and start to understand when to apply it, and what freedom it gives you in the ability to be able to know that if you know these three patterns, you just wait for the right opportunity. So Danielle, tell them all about the right opportunity here.
Yeah, well, I mean, really, it's just a combination of these 5 things: pattern recognition, support and resistance, conviction, stop, target, and execution. So let's go on to the 3 patterns here that are really the primary 3 patterns that we're going to use throughout the trading day. And it's interesting because I'm really just a day trader. I do not swing trade futures. I do swing trade options, but as far as futures, I'm only a day trader. And Raghee, of course, does day and swing trading, but we use the same patterns. So our first pattern is going to be called our correction to continuation pattern. This is the pattern that you need to recognize when you want to be able to jump on the trend. So this is very, very key. I am, and Raghee is primarily a trend follower. So you need to know where do you have an edge in a pullback in a nice trend to jump on it. That's pattern 1. Pattern 2 is going to be the choppy market fade. So you need to understand when the trend has changed. And the switch is also recognizing, these two are a little bit different. So you have a really nice solid pattern. That's one thing. The choppy market fade is when you do have a trend, however, it's a little shaky. And then pattern number 3 is when the switch has happened. So that's when you're long, 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 and then all of a sudden, boom, you should not be long anymore. So you need to know when that occurred to be able to have profitable trades. So let's go on to the next slide, and then we're going to get into the trading examples. So, I mean, I don't know about you guys, but have you ever felt like this during the middle of the trading day? The first pattern goes with this emotion. So you know that you need to get long or short, but you don't know how or when or where. That is what we teach you in the correction or continuation pattern. The second one is going to be, hey, I know that the market's moving. There's crazy volatility. But what am I supposed to do with this? It's going up and down, and I know there's money to be made, but how? So that is going to be the choppy market fade. The last one is going to be, wow, that trend just changed on me and I was not prepared for that. So what we want to do is to be able to teach you when the switch has happened and when you need to switch from going long to going short or vice versa. So now let's go ahead and get back to Raghee, and she's going to go through multiple trade examples with her tools that she likes to use on the regular basis.
Thanks, girl. So that was exactly, and I hope you guys realize the power in what Danielle was just mentioning. The three patterns actually key up with the three psychologies that we see in the market most often. Trending, trend reversals, and choppy markets. And there are nuances to all three, but when you understand what your internal psychology battles are, and then you can understand what the external, the market psychology is, and you start to pair up the external, the market psychology with your strategy, rather than just treating everything like a nail and you're a hammer. You have to know there's nails, there's bolts, there's screws, the whole thing. And that's really where the tools that I use come into focus. So this first one is a choppy market fade. And I'm going to walk you guys through, number one, the indicators that I use for this and how we set this up. And these are all fairly recent trades, and some of them I'm still in now. So this is a chart of crude oil, and crude is one of those major contracts in futures. There are four sectors that I like to focus on: metals, indices, currencies, and energies. And this is one of the four. So crude oil, gas, Brent, heating oil, natural gas. So that's the sector. And this one is straight up crude oil. Now, a choppy market fade is all about, number one, recognizing the market is going back and forth. To understand that, I'm going to use two basic tools. I'm going to look at the angle of these three moving averages, which I call the wave, the 34 EMA wave, which is made up of the 34 period exponential moving average on the high, the close, and the low. So each one of those moving averages has a color: green, blue, and red. So for those of you that have never seen this before, it's really just a visual tool to say, are we moving up or are we moving sideways? And literally imagine an arrow running right through the middle of it and just connect sort of the line to the arrow and say, okay, what kind of angle is this? And so when they move sideways, you're in chop. The other thing that I have operating on this chart are the grab candles. And this was just sort of the evolution of tools that I've been using since I was 15, 16, 17 years old. Back then, they're simple moving averages. Now they're exponential. But those candles, the color of them change depending upon the organization of sentiment, momentum, and ultimately trend. When I have green grab candles, so grab, by the way, stands for green, red, and blue. It's just an acronym. So when I have green candles, it's a bullish market. I'm looking for higher highs and higher lows. I'm looking for the market to potentially organize into an uptrend, but there's more strength. What happens for a lot of traders is when they see the market heading higher and lower and they don't look at it within the context of the market trend, they don't realize that that is a buy. And that was one of the trades we took earlier. This was just in the middle of February. That's a buy. And we look for the market to head higher and possibly exhaust at these other lines. And I'll get into these other lines in a moment, but those are automated support and resistance levels known as DARVAs. So choppy market fades. Identify the chop by using the grab and the wave. Identify the support and resistance with the automated DARVAS tool, and then buy when the market syncs up with an oversold level. And what you have here is the RAF. Each one of these tools is very specifically chosen to tackle a choppy market. The next is the switch. And I got to give Danielle credit for this one. She named this one. So this is the switch. And what it is literally a switch in the trend. Oh, go ahead.
No, you explain. You got it. I picked this slide. I'll tell you why I picked this slide, and then you explain
you guys
it.
Go ahead and tell them, because this is your chart. Go ahead and tell them.
Well, for me, I'm a For me, I'm a trend follower. With my options trades, with my futures trades, I want to follow the trend. And I've tried multiple different tools to try to do that in the best way possible. And I actually just have found that I love the grab because it is the absolute most clear thing. And I put this chart in particular because last week I was super long in my options positions. It's earnings season coming up, and you know, I always go over the S&P, NASDAQ, Dow futures, and I want to know what is going on with these charts. So the key here is identifying the switch. So I saw that switch happen last Thursday, thanks to Raghee's grab here. He can point to that right where that happened, Raghee. Yeah, the switch. And I mean, from that point, I have had a bearish bias in the S&P futures until the switch happened. You can see where it happened on Wednesday again. But from that point, it was just, hey, every shorting opportunity. Now, I don't swing trade S&P futures, but I use this as my anchor chart to then find bearish opportunities on my short time frame charts because that anchor chart has made the switch and it's in a bearish mode. Now, at this point where we have, you know, after the switch made yesterday, now I'm back on the buy side. So that helps me in my futures day trades as well as understanding what's going on with my overall options portfolio.
So a couple nuances to the switch, and I used to call these intraday trend breaks, which is literally what it is. And you'll notice the grab candles, the candles that I just introduced you to before, they literally switched. We went green, 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 and it's a little difficult to see, but right in there we went blue. So what is green? Green is bullish, blue is neutral, and red is bearish. I mean, that's how easy these color-coded candles make interpreting momentum and trend. And the switch is literally when the green switches to blue and switches to red. Now, there are some nuances in confirmation tools, but the main thing is to watch where the candle colors change. Now, this is a 78-minute chart of the S&P. One of the things that I want everyone to consider is this isn't about the time frame. It really is about the way in which the market trend adjusted. And the reason I mentioned it isn't about the time frame is I'm going to show you a 5-minute chart that did the same thing. I can show you different time frames that will put on this trade. So it's not about being a long-term trader or short-term trader. It's really about understanding these three patterns and realizing because they are patterns based upon literally 100-year-old market trend psychology that Charles Dow, yes, that Dow, Charles Dow talked about, it can be used in any market and on any time frame. This just happens to be a great 78-minute chart. Here is a, let's see, it's another choppy market trade. This is a choppy market fade. So let's see, we had this crude oil market example here. This is our switch. And then here's another choppy market example. And this is related back to the crude oil market. Again, I want to show you all the importance of the automated support and resistance level. That's the Darvis. And what do these horizontal lines show? These horizontal lines show the previous time the market was down at this level, that the buyers stepped in and supported the market. It's evidence that psychologically there is a reaction. So when I see that these lines have plotted, I just manually extend them out. And now I have a zone, a buyable zone that's automatically identified that allows me to then set up a trade. And this was actually a really fun trade. Now I remember why I like this trade. This was one where I flew up to New York, did an interview about my favorite trade going into March, April, May. And I said, the seasonal rally in gas and I was just actually talking to some folks here in the office. How much are we paying for gas right now?
$3.39.
$3, $3.40. Yeah. So gas is going up and there is a seasonal component to that. And that's actually something that's very powerful and important when you're looking at futures. I mean, and I think a lot of people understand seasonals in equities. Sell May and go away is kind of a seasonal. The Santa rally is kind of a seasonal. So there are seasonals. This seasonal, coupled with the oversold zone with the Darvis, this was a buy. And notice again, I have a mix of those grab candles. I don't have dominant red or green or blue. It's a mix. Tell me the market's choppy, and I could take advantage of exhaustion in this automated pre-identified zone. Then actually, I do want to mention now, going forward, gang, keep an eye on crude and keep an eye on unleaded, because the trend has now started to organize into much better an uptrend just in the past, I'd say 4 or 5 candles. So going forward, keep an eye on this. This market's actually starting to go bullish with a very good seasonal and a very good fundamental narrative that is being proven by the higher highs in price, the consistent green grab candles. So once again, we're switching. So if we were to talk about this in another week, this would probably be a trend follow, the correction and continuation pattern number 1 that Danielle was talking about. Here's actually a really cool trade that I remember when you put this one on, Danielle. You want to talk about it?
Oh my gosh, I'm honestly just, it's funny because I always feel like embarrassed to show my trades that are like 5 or 6 points, which to me, I mean, I have a $6,000 account with futures, and you know, it just for me, if I can make $300, $400, $500, $600, $700, I mean, I'm solid. If I make $300 in a day, I'm happy. That adds up in a $6,000 account. So sometimes I feel a little silly with everybody, all my other trading colleagues who have been around for so long. But I mean, this is just literally a pattern. You know, and you can trade this with 1 contract like I do. You can trade it with 2. You can trade it with 20 if you want, depending on your account size. But really, all I'm trying to show here is that I'm a trend follower, and you can see how, Raghee, if you want to circle that last Darvis low where I bought down at that pink, yeah, right there. So I'm a trend follower. So the way that I like to use the Darvis and the grab is I don't particularly get into those choppy market fades, though you can if you want to circle the choppy market fade down at the bottom at 26.57. For me, what I prefer, yes, there's one right there. So that choppy market fade down at the very bottom, that I would consider a little bit more aggressive. But I mean, that's one of the trade setups that we do. For me, what I like to do with my small account and small risk tolerance is I like to wait until we're in the trend. So you can see how we have 1, 2, 3, 4 Darvis boxes before I got into my trade. I got into the trade at that second point that Raghee has circled with that pink Darvis box right there, because at that point in time, from about 1:30 in the afternoon, and I did this trade at like 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock at night when my son was in bed. So, you know, I was just sitting at my computer doing my research for the next day, and I see the trend continuation set up. We have green grab, pulled back, hit the Darvis, got a beautiful ready aim fire buy, you know, 9 o'clock at night, and there we have a couple $100. So it was a quick trade. You know, it's not anything, you know, it's not, it's, you know, I didn't make 10 grand or anything in 10 minutes, but for me and for my size account, like that's awesome. And that's what I look to do like every day. So how much do I risk on these trades? I usually risk about 4 points, which is about $200. 4, 5, 6 points is really my maximum. So maximum risk of about $300 per contract. I usually only trade 1 or 2 contracts. So as far as comparing that to that was the S&P futures. So I actually only trade the S&P, NASDAQ, and Dow futures. I don't even get into anything else. I just trade the indexes. That's what I have learned. That's what works for me. I am going to start getting more into these other contracts like gold and whatnot. But I mean, I've been trading these S&P futures and for the past couple years, and you know, I just like to focus on one thing, and I like to do it well. So that's an example of one trade, overnight trade. you know, I mean, how long was that? That's a 5-minute chart. So I think it was in about an hour. So Raghee's gonna, if you guys, that is gonna be the web address to download the tools. So we've seen a lot of questions about the tools. These tools are free, and we are gonna get to a slide on that, but I can see that we have a lot of questions on it. So if you type into, you can just type that into your browser, right, Raghee? app.box.com/v/Raghee. And Raghee has actually made these tools available for anybody to download, and we're gonna teach these trades in our class. But I mean, those tools are available for you guys to download. So you can go ahead and type that into your browser and get those tools. Go ahead and go to the next slide, Raghee, and I'll teach that one too. So those tools are for TradeStation and Thinkorswim. And we also, Raghee's charts are also available on Infinity Futures. So here's another one. This one was a bigger trade for me. This one was a bigger trade for me. I don't know if you can see that very well, but this again is the S&P futures right at market open. So Raghee, if you could circle right up there at 26.33. So this was a switch right at market open. And this was, I think, yesterday, either yesterday or the day before, but yeah, right there. So I love trading the open. Neil has taught me really, really well how to trade the open. I appreciate him so much for that. And now I have combined it with Raghee's stuff. So I got a switch right at the open. And I mean, this trade was like a 20-minute long trade. I used one contract. I risked 4 points, which is about $200. And you can't really see it. It's a little small, but I mean, that was a $725 trade in like 20 minutes. So I really like doing those open. How many trades do I do per day? I'm like a stalker. So I will sit and wait, and I'll do like 2 trades a day, maybe 3, but I'm not trading back and forth and this and the other thing. I'm just a stalker, and I wait for the perfect moment, and then I go in. So that's about it. 4-point stop is pretty tight. I mean, the 4-point is going to be tighter. 6-point is better. So that's going to be, you know, it's $50 a point in the S&P futures. So depending on if you have a 4 to 6-point stop and how many contracts you use, that is how much you're risking. So it depends also where you enter. So I work to get really good entries. So Raghee, why don't you give us a live example? Yeah, we always put a stop, always a stop.
Sounds good. All right. So again, we have the link here, gang. This is the app.box.com/v/Raghee. The downloads for Thinkorswim, for TradeStation. And by the way, if you're on TradeStation, you can just go into the App Store. These are the top 3 most popular indicators in the App Store now. They have been for a bit. And the Thinkorswim, we've got the shared chart and the individual Thinkscript files that you can go grab. But sit tight, because we got to show you how to use these a little bit more. And I'm going to show you a couple examples of this. This is actually a trade from today. And those folks that are in the simpler futures room, Danielle mentioned, Neil and myself and David were in that room. And this morning I did the open. And one of the things we did is one of the patterns that we talk about. And this is just an intraday momentum trade that takes advantage of the first 30 minutes of the day. So if you're a day trader, if you like to intraday trade and you're just starting, one of the first bits of advice that I'll give you is don't trade the first 30 minutes after the bell rings. That's a little bit more advanced. That's something where I think you graduate to that level. But I would say your first foray into day trading can be watching between 9:30 and 10 a.m. Eastern, letting the first 30 minutes, called the clearing, go by, and then mark the clearing range high and low. And that's what we did. Now, there's a few other criteria that's required. namely to make sure the range isn't too high. But nonetheless, you wait for the clearing range breakout, and that's exactly what we did. And you can see here we marked a 66.16 breakout buy, and that's what we took. And our first target was 66.45. Now we did a similar thing on the S&P, and the same trade triggered off on the Dow, and they do tend to move together. One of the things that's really powerful in a week like this is you can ride the coattails of certain stocks. And, in the next couple of weeks, this is something that I would highly recommend you watch. We had Facebook, we had Visa, we had today, Intel, Amazon, Microsoft. I'll show you what happened with this trade. This is all from this morning. So what did I have? High-low range between 9:30 and 10. We take the breakout buy. And then one of the strategies that we're going to teach is how to use the repetitive price movement ranges in order to understand how to place stops and how to place profit targets. And that technique is probably as close to a cheat as I've ever found. And that's what dictated the 66.45 target. So then we start to manage this trade. Now look at the green grab candles we have here again. It's a 5-minute chart. Nowhere on this chart ever did the candles turn red throughout the regular trading hours of the day. We went blue, we went neutral, but notice if you just follow the color-coded candles, they told you bullish momentum, bullish momentum, bullish sentiment, bullish momentum. And then every now and then we also started to accelerate, which is what those dots are. By the way, every one of these indicators is in that folder, that app.box folder. Now, by the time the end of the day and we're at the close, by the time we got to this part of the day, 4 p.m., I had a nice cushion. And by here, I've only got 1/3 of my position remaining. So the idea was, yes, the market could have gone lower, but at the same time, I know what's happening with earnings, and the opportunity is twofold. I can continue to stay long, knowing that my entry is way down here. I only had 1/3 the position, so I've taken 2/3 of it off the table. Okay, and there is a certain risk. Obviously, these are environments where the tail wags the dog, these individual stocks, but we're still long. Now, I don't have the full complement of lots any longer, but we're still long. So there are opportunities that start much earlier in the day. And if you're a stock trader wondering, okay, how can futures make me a little bit better at stocks? There is a lot to be gleaned from understanding what these larger indexes, think of the index futures as the tide and the individual stocks as the boat. So by 10 o'clock, I've got a read on where I want to focus bullish or bearish strategies on. And then I also know by looking at the breakdown of the individual indexes, what stocks are going to be in play. So that's a live example from today. And let me go find my presentation here again. There we go. So that was an example of just today. Now, the same thing happened in the S&P. The same thing happened in the Dow. So watch those first 30 minutes. Be patient. Have the ability to sit on the sidelines and let the market reveal itself to you. And here's another example. So you thought, okay, Rog, that was a great buy. The market took off. But what happens on days like the other day when the Dow sold off 400 points? Do these strategies work there as well? So let me show you conviction. And there's a number of trades that happened here. One is, and one thing I love about futures is the flexibility of the trading hours. I'd put on an early bird trade. I was up early, and kind of like Danielle's story with late at night, I'm kind of an early morning girl. And I had a quick little 4 or 5 point trade here that happened earlier. And the market seemed pretty bullish going into the open, all the green grab. But then the shift happened. And what occurs with traders who don't have grab or don't have a way to understand when a market is turning over, when bullishness is going to neutral, is going to bearish, when you don't have these kind of visual cues, you're oftentimes going to be blindsided by these subtle shifts that are happening. So here's how easily I can change my conviction from profitable long trades and not being double mule. That's twice as stubborn, half as smart, and hanging on to that side of the trade because it was profitable. And sometimes traders don't notice that things are changing. This is why the color-coded candles keep me out of trouble. So the shift occurred, and I really didn't take much, and I didn't actually do much other than watch that shift. What I waited for was that clearing range trade, and that clearing range trade triggered a short. Now, do I expect every clearing range trade to be one of these kind of sell-off days? No way. But notice how well in advance of the market opening, we'd already started to see that the market went bearish. We stopped buying, we broke support, and then by the time the clearing range setup triggered, it was a short. And this was definitely an interesting day, because by the time you step back and look at the day in its entirety, you don't start off with a clearing range trade thinking you're going to have one of those days. You're going to have one of those types of sell-off days. But here's a great example of not only how profitable these graph candles, how they can keep you on the right side of the trade, but how they warn you. Let's talk about risk control for a moment, how they can warn you when the market is shifting. So there's a trade there, but there's also a lot of, I think, staying on the right side of momentum, staying on the right side of the trend at play. And this, I'm not going to say this was an easy day, but if you just trade what you see, every one of the signs, when you read those graph candles, was absolutely there. And as I mentioned before, you can download these tools at app.box.com/V/Raghee. I use these tools in the equities markets, the futures markets, Forex markets. Obviously, we've shown you a bunch of examples now where when you follow the patterns, and these patterns are very much predicated on using these free tools, color-coded simplicity. I like to say my life is sequences and numbers, these patterns that arrive, and then counting dots and counting candle colors. And I just look for the pattern to occur again and again and again. And part of it is very much utilizing these tools. So we have a class that Danielle and I are going to do. We have basically taken the time over the past, really over the past year, but really the last few months, decoded the things that I was doing since the age of 15 on. What has allowed me to have a 30-year career that started in the futures markets. The futures markets really are kind of the love of my trading life. And when you trade futures, it just opens up the playground of the markets in a very unique way. When I was showing you the example of the NASDAQ, if you're trading NASDAQ weighted names and the NAS is showing you a clearing range breakout, you know that certain individual boats, certain individual stocks are going to rise with that tide. So regardless of the kind of trader you are, to me, the futures markets just become this touchstone that allow you to trade what seem to be disconnected markets, but they're really not. You can connect the dots and see trades, I think, occurring in a much more effective way. So I'm going to let Danielle explain to you what we're going to be doing as, again, we've taken what has been a 30-year career as a futures trader and decoded it into 3 patterns, giving you 3 automated tools which you can download today and allow you to kind of use these sort of rinse and repeat recipes in order to trade the futures market. So Danielle, why don't you tell them what they're going to be joining us to do on May the 5th?
Yeah, for sure. Well, basically, we're going to have a 4-hour strategy class where I'm going to take the first 2 hours and Raghee's going to take the second 2 hours. What we have done is really just distilled from this really distinct patterns with these free tools so that we can learn how to teach you, so that we can teach you how to use these tools across multiple markets and time frames. So I am, a futures day trader, while Raghee's primarily a swing trader, though she does day trade as well. And I also trade options. So these tools and these patterns, I mean, once you learn them, you can use them anywhere. So that's what's so awesome about them. And then of course the tools are free. So I really appreciate Raghee for making those available to us. But basically, we're just going to do a Futures 101. We're going to try and we will achieve to make this, valuable for those of you who do know how to trade futures while also making it valuable for those of you who don't know how to trade futures and you really want to learn from the beginning. So really, for any of you guys who took my last class, you'll know that I really like to break things down in checklist form and teach you the steps from beginning to end. That's just kind of how I do things. So that is what we're going to be doing in our strategy class. And Raghee, and a new thing that we instituted was the gold member price. So that just came out yesterday. So for those of you who are gold members, you are going to get a discounted price if you would like to take our class, and if you would like to learn more from our class, that is available to you now. And the pro version, so the strategy version is going to be 4 hours of strategy where we break everything down. We give you all the rules, the patterns, slideshow. You get our checklists, all of that kind of stuff. And then the pro version is going to be where we trade it live. So just like anything else in life, I mean, you can watch a YouTube video on how to play golf, right? But unless you practice it, you know, just one of those things that, especially trading, is something that you really do need to practice. So we have the strategy version available, and then we also have the pro version. So if you sign up for the pro version, you're going to get that strategy plus live trading, 2 full days with us. And Neil is also going to join us for that. So absolutely, I see a lot of questions about Neil. We love Neil so much, and he is day trading futures expert. I mean, he's the one that got me into it to begin with. So I'm really excited to have him join us for a little bit on that. And then I see some questions about account size. I'm glad that, yeah, I mean, my futures account, I funded it with 5K. So, you know, and that's plenty. So with Infinity Futures, and we do have the details on different futures accounts if you scroll down to the bottom of that page. So if you guys can see, I posted the link in the presenters post area, simplertrading.com/futures freedom. If you go to that link, then you can you'll get to this page, and if Raghee can scroll down a little bit, then you can see what is going to be included in the class. So we wanted to make sure that we gave you really good information in this hour, but you know, there's no way that we can teach everything that we know in 1 hour. It's literally not possible. So this class is going to be focused on these specific aspects of trading, learning the pattern, learning your checklist, your morning checklist, primarily how to trade trends. Do you make money every day? Absolutely not. So do we make money more times than not? I mean, I guess Raghee can answer that too, but I think anybody who's a trader who knows that you are not going to make money every single day of your life. So there are going to be days that are not good days, but to be a successful, profitable trader, you know, what you work for is making your good days outweigh the bad, and that is the consistent thing that we teach, and that is what we try to teach our students to do. So that's a lifelong process. Some people get there quicker than others do, but that really goes back to education. So, you know, it's just depends how much. Yeah.
Hey, I want to tackle a few questions here that I've seen scroll by. So thank you, gang, for all the questions. I'm going to grab just a few of them. Most of them, I think, with the indicators. You guys can download them. They are available for MT4 as well. I saw a question about Awanda. They are available for Infinity. Sierra, absolutely. And, you know, one thing I wanted to mention is, going back to what it was that I learned when I was 15, I'm going to be 47 this year. What I learned when I was 15 was, what are those specifics that I need to know about certain contracts, seasonals, the way in which markets respond to certain types of reports, price movement ranges. You know, the Futures 101 that Danielle and I are going to be teaching next Saturday is really a distillation of those things that I found, not because it's what everybody else did. Most of my education was observational. You know, I charted price, I charted my own indicators by hand. I've literally taken the dust off notebooks that have been sitting on my my bookshelf for the better part of 25 plus years and gone back to those distinctions that may not be as common, certainly aren't part of trading dogma, because I did a lot of questioning as far as why was something done a certain way. And a lot of those basics, this Futures 101 foundation is what we're going to cover, and then go into detail of those patterns. So in terms of some of the indicator questions, go ahead and download, play around with the indicators. We do both long and short trades. PSK, absolutely. The example that I showed you all, getting long today on the NQ, but getting short the other day on ES, absolutely. Going long and short is much easier in the futures markets than just about any other kind of, to me, trading. The dots, no, they're called propulsion dots, Lourdes. They're called propulsion dots. It's actually a replacement for exponential moving averages. So for those of you that have hung out this long, let me give you a quick tip on using moving averages. They're one of the most abused and overused indicators out there. What we do is we use the propulsion dots in lieu of exponential moving averages. And that's something I'm going to teach you. And the propulsion dots are in that folder you can download today. And if the dots are not lighting up, you cannot use that moving average. And that might sound really simple, but one of the problems traders have with choppy markets is they emphasize moving averages too much, and they don't emphasize them enough in trending markets. Well, the great thing about propulsion dots, and again, it's the free indicator in that folder, they will only plot, or I say light up, when it's allowable for them to be used. It's really that, it's simple. What a grab candle is, it's really a candle RC that allows you to understand the momentum of the market. Green is bullish, blue is neutral, red is bearish. Are these so Gerald, these tools have been available for, yes, they are the TOPS tools. That is correct. I'm going to be sharing the 3 patterns that we use with the TOPS tools. This is something that Danielle and I have been fine tuning now for quite some time. And yes, these are those free TOPS tools. And let me mention something about these indicators. I've been using these indicators or some variation of them for decades. I mean, as soon as I had the benefit of not having to draw my own charts by hand, these have been a staple in my trading for decades. So we're going to be teaching how to use those indicators and how they apply to those 3 patterns that Danielle talked about. A couple other questions here. If you have any questions about the member pricing, please feel free to contact customer support and they'll walk you through that. If not, if you head over to simpletrading.com/futures-freedom, you can get to this page that Danielle was reading. Let's see, what else? Let me grab a few more questions. Danielle, if you want to grab a few when I'm done here. Is the Futures Freedom webinar? No. Joseph, no. This is really geared towards traders who are looking to build a foundation in futures, who don't understand things like the impact rollover, open interest, volume, seasonal, some of these 101 concepts for futures trading. We're really building a futures trader from the ground up, and then we're giving you 3 main strategies that you can use for the remainder of your career. It's really following in the footsteps of what I did at age 15, because I know it works, right? 3 decades later, I can tell you I know it works. And that is what Danielle has helped me decode. And that is what we're going to be presenting. So the day trading futures class, I love day trading. Neil is going to be part of the intraday live trading, but the day trading futures was different. That was really a response to what was happening in February and how to manage the shift in volatility and price movement ranges that we saw. All right, and I'll tell you all about my story on Saturday. It's kind of an interesting one, but yeah, I'll be more than happy to tell you how a 15-year-old starts trading corn and how I started on this interesting ride. It is different than TOPS East. Yes, it is different than TOPS. The TOPS indicators are there, but that's been, again, out there for years. But it is different than TOPS. TOPS is really an indicator course class that showed you how to use Darvis and wave grab propulsion. We'll teach you some of that, but then we're going to get into the the Futures 101 and also the 101 of these 3 patterns. Danielle, you want to tackle a few questions here?
Awesome. Well, really quick, I just wanted to answer a couple of questions that I've seen about the indicators. I just wanted to do a quick reminder of having a knife and a frying pan does not a chef make. So if y'all do just grab these indicators and run, feel free, but please do some paper trading for the next week or so. Don't just take tools and run away and play with them. They can be dangerous. That's what the education side of this is. That's what the class side is, teaching you not to hurt yourself with these awesome sharp tools. So I just wanted to throw that out there real quick.
Thanks, Dee. Yeah, it's really important. I mean, I've spent so many hours and all this working on how to actually use the tools, and we love to show you all the examples, but it really does take a lot more time to deep dive into that to be able to use them really accurately and with precision. The names are the grab, the propulsion, and the Darvis box. Yes, you will absolutely be taught how to use the indicators in the class in multiple different trading situation in swing and day on a swing and day trade basis. What is in this class that was not in tops? Well, me for one. What are the different color dots mean? So, but in all seriousness, you guys, if you guys know me, you know I love to make jokes. But we're going to focus on swing trade and day trade. Really break this down from beginner level and focus on specific patterns with checklists. Will we talk about limit up and limit down concepts? Yeah, absolutely.
The tops question. The big difference is for sure knowing how to build yourself up as a futures trader, because tops was really about trading stocks, ETFs, Forex, futures, everything. It was an indicator class. And part of that, a little bit of that will be here, but I'm going to be giving you the specific settings. Tops is about, hey, here's some indicators. Here's how I use them, and here's how to make them your own. Here, it's really going to be much more about these are the settings. This is the order. This is the checklist. And then also getting into some aspects of futures that are really 101 fundamentals. But I think, again, what allowed me to stay in this game for as long, understanding seasonals, understanding price movement ranges, getting these patterns down to a repeatable science, all with using tops. But for sure, this is really about building up as strong a foundation, a futures trading foundation as possible. So again, thanks for the questions. And for those of you that were at the tops class, you're going to love this if you want to start adding futures in a much more serious way to your trading. And you've got a little bit of a head start, so that's great. Just wanted to address that.
Yeah, we absolutely got a head start with those explanations from Raghee. Those were really awesome, but really got to do that deep dive. So does the pattern day trading rule apply to futures trading? No, and that's absolutely why I started trading futures. So I should have added that earlier on, but it does not apply to futures trading. So, if you have an account under 25K with Thinkswim and you can't day trade, you can day trade futures. So you just have to get permission from your broker. And then as far as, oh, good, I really like that you enjoyed it. And as far as Infinity Futures, so that is Raghee really likes TradeStation. I love Infinity Futures. That is what I use. I really just put the link there because they do have Raghee's indicators on their charting platform. Patrick was kind enough to get those set up for me. So that is an all-in-one package. They also have a demo account, which is great. If you're not really ready to trade live money, but you still want to learn how to do it, you can trade futures using that demo account there. So I did want to put that contact information for Patrick so you could contact him directly if you want an Infinity account. Tastyworks. Yeah, you can trade futures with Tastyworks. Will we be going over day trading setups during the live trading? Absolutely, because that is what I do. And Neil does it, and so is Raghee. So we're all going to do that. Do you have IB agreements with Toss, TradeStation, and Infinity? You're gonna have to email support@simplertrading.com. I'm not exactly sure what you're looking for. What is the cost to open an Infinity account? I think you can open it with minimum 3K. I opened mine with 5, and that's plenty because the contracts that I trade are like $500 margin per contract. So with $5,000, that's plenty. If you would like to become a gold member, go to simplertrading.com. We have Simpler Futures Gold. We have Simpler Options Gold. We have Fib Queen Gold. Yes, you can buy the class at a discount with Fib Queen Gold. It's totally fine. What is the difference between Infinity Futures and TD Ameritrade? I've had an account there. I already have an account there. Infinity is way faster. The commissions, I believe, are cheaper, and the margin requirement is much, much lower. The margin requirement in Thinkorswim per S&P futures contracts like $5 grand, and in Infinity it's $500. So thank you, Alan. Glad to see you there. Will I take some trades today? I will take trades whenever there are trades setting up. So if I'm ready to go and there's trade setting up, I will take it. Right now, that was not really my focus, as you know, we're talking about the webinar right now. But I love trading. I'll take a trade whenever there's a setup. So. What room do you trade the E-mini each day? So I'm usually in the Simpler Options trading room. I trade the close every day. Raghee's in the Simpler Futures room as well as options. So, you can see me trading in there. Your toss says 7,700 per S&P contract. Yeah, you should email them about that. Tim says, I set up my Infinity account 2 weeks ago. I love it, and Patrick was helpful. Awesome. Yeah, Patrick is great. Do we offer one-on-one consulting? You can email us for sure about that, Danielle at simplertrading.com or Raghee. But honestly, this price for the class is going to be your best option. So when we do these classes, we put a lot into them, a lot of time and effort. We write everything up. It takes a lot to put all this stuff together. So if you want to learn from us, the best option is going to be the class, because we put so much of our heart into this, and it's going to be laid out perfectly for you. So if you want to learn from us, the class is going to be the best option. And then, beyond that, the trading room. But during the trading room, we don't really have time to explain the whole full thing, so that's what the classes are for. The classes are for learning the strategy, the ins and outs of the details. The trading room is to actually trade. So of course we explain when we can, but especially with futures, it's so fast. So if y'all are having any problems with the indicators, just email support for sure. Sorry, Raghee, what were we going to say?
It's okay. No, it's okay. I saw a couple questions about margin. No worries. You're doing great. I saw a couple questions
about margin. Yeah, that'd be great.
Yeah. So basically, it depends on whether it's day trading margin. Nobody is better about day trading margin than Infinity. So absolutely, you want to talk to Patrick about that. And as far as intraday trading, I will tell you, Infinity is the way to go. But look, I'm going to tell you straight up as well, and I've told Patrick this too, and I'm just used to TradeStation chart. So I actually use both. I like to, I've got Sierra set up, and I'm also using TradeStation, but the day trading margin is excellent. It's really without peer. And then for other types of markets, if I want to go do futures options, things like that, which is a whole other conversation. That's why I have TradeStation. So the margin requirement will change depending upon whether or not you're taking trades beyond the normal trading hours. Those rules are changing. We'll talk about a lot of that during the class. You know, what kind of capital do you need to put on certain types of trades? What mini and micro account alternatives are there? We'll talk a lot about that. And then sometimes if the risk and the initial margin is too great, what alternatives on the option side include, you know, because remember, there's futures options. We'll talk about managing these trades with that, because that's really part of, again, this kind of 101 building a futures trader. So the margin requirements, though, will vary, and that's probably the biggest difference, the day trading versus end of day margin requirement. So I think Danielle, is there anything else you want to add as we kind of wrap it up here?
I guess just any other questions. I hope to see you guys at the class. We love teaching. We're working really hard to put everything together, and really hope you guys join us. It'll be on Saturday, May 5th. A lot of people are asking about the recording. If you're not able to make it that day, absolutely, you will get the recording for that class. It'll come with a packet with homework and the slides and all that good stuff, so you can watch it at your leisure. The prices for the classes do usually go up after the actual class has finished, so just FYI. But you know, you can watch that recording at any time. So I really appreciate everyone staying here and listening to us tonight. The times of the class are going to be from 12 o'clock p.m. to 4 p.m. Central Time Zone on Saturday, May 5th. And then the day trading days are going to be during U.S. market hours, Central Time, 8:30 to 3. How long does it take to get an Infinity Futures account set up? Took me, I mean, if I answered all my emails right away, it probably would have taken a much shorter period of time. You know, you have to fill out the form, say how much money you have, all that, and then they approve you, and then you send them the money, and then you set up your charts. So, I mean, I would say a week. I would say if you want one, start now. Danielle, is Danielle part of the futures team alert room? Thanks. Raghee, you want to take that one? Are you still there?
Hazing her, Don. Are we hazing you?
She left me. She's like, I'm done.
When we're doing the live trading, though, Danielle will be sending out the live trading alerts during the class, during the live trading portion of the class. My live trades, Neil's, Danielle's, we will be sending those out.
Yeah, I mean, right now I'm primarily in the options room, and I do a lot of futures trades in there as well, or at least I try when they come up during my session. But these are really things that you have to really focus on and learn, and it's kind of hard for me to, I try not to inundate the options focused folks with the future stuff. So this is really our opportunity to teach that future stuff, futures concepts from the ground up. So I'm really looking forward to that. Yes, I do use tick charts for entries, 377 tick chart. Thank you, Old Gray Wolf, Dr. C. Really appreciate it. Yeah, I really appreciate all of your comments. If the answer is no, please just say so. I'm not sure what you're referring to, but how much does it cost to try out the futures trading room? So we do actually have trials to our trading rooms. Just go to simplertrading.com. Are the indicators available for NinjaTrader? Yes, they are. Please email support@simplertrading.com and they will help you out with that. I did see you ask if it was being recorded. And yes, this is recorded. This is being recorded, but it's not a recording. So yes, I use 377 tick charts for futures. Yeah, I think you can. Awesome. Okay. Well, I think that that's about enough for us tonight. I really appreciate everyone being here. Hope to see you in the class. If not, hope to see you in the trading room. And I hope that everybody has an awesome rest of their day. And I hope you have an awesome Friday.
That was awesome. And everyone, thank you so much for wanting to learn about futures. We're going to have a great class on Saturday. And Danielle, that was great. Thanks. Hey, gang, be good to each other. We'll see you all on Saturday.
Awesome. Ciao.